Incorrectly Political is a podcast that takes you deep inside the minds of high school students. Alrighty, Andrew Tate, let's talk about him. But before we talk about him, I got a question for everybody. What color is your Bugatti? So, Cooper, you can go first.
Just a little bit of background about Andrew Tate. He is a 4-time world champion kickboxer. He lives in Romania because he is too good for the U.S. His words, not mine. And he makes his money from social media, obviously, but also his course he has called Hustlers University. And basically what he does is he lures all these people in with the gimmick of teaching them how to become like a super successful businessman like him. And what he does is he tells them the secret to it is reposting his own content. So there's a bunch of like alt YouTube accounts and like TikTok accounts. I mean, I don't use TikTok, but I'm sure it's on TikTok too. And just all over of people reposting and reposting and reposting Andrew Tate content. So it's basically like this whole MLM scheme to get Andrew to the top of social media leaderboards, if those are even a thing. And he's apparently managed to do it. So the reason that I think it will be a good point of conversation is because he's a very controversial person. He uses his platforms to make absolutely absurd claims about himself and his interactions, especially his interactions with women, and that has become a major, major point of controversy. People believe that this might, or his influence will sort of misinform young men about women and how they should be treating women and what's okay and what's not okay, and this will sort of like funnel into what already exists in some people's eyes as a culture of misogyny. Now, that's sort of what I wanted to touch on today, Andrew Tate and the controversy. And I think the best way to start is maybe just providing what my opinion is and just going from there. So overall, Andrew Tate, in my eyes, is not, he's not a great person. He's obviously has some accolades like kickboxing, 4-time world champion. I mean, that's pretty cool. But one thing that does stick out to me is like his ingenuity in marketing and entertaining. Like, even though the stuff he says and does is, not really socially acceptable or moral, he has managed to essentially catapult himself to the top of all social media platforms within, I would say, probably less than a year. And I mean, that's a really insane feat of marketing to me. Now, again, going back to what I think about him as a person, I don't agree with essentially anything he says. I mean, I think some of it is so absurdly funny that I find myself laughing at it. Like, for instance, there's this one pretty well-known clip of him saying like top G, or no, I think like someone refers to him as top G, and I don't know, it's pretty funny. But anyways, to address like the concerns about his views on women and how that might be affecting young men, I think that the concern over it is valid. That sure, if someone was watching this and they didn't know anything about how to treat a woman and that's the only information they ever had, that could be problematic. But I think when you look at it in the broader scope of social media, like essentially every piece of content that we consume is or has the potential to influence our beliefs, right? So that's the risk we're taking by using social media. So when we log on and we see super divisive posts about, for instance, Roe v. Wade is big in the news right now, or the war, in Ukraine, or things like that, where there's a lot of room for discourse, the risk we're taking is that our beliefs become polarized. And in my eyes, this Andrew Tate situation is really not too different from that. Like, people, I don't know if they understand, but the risk that they take when they use social media, but they're sort of like putting up their beliefs and values to the algorithm. So I think all of this is to say that the concern over Andrew Tate and misogyny and those types of things, I think, again, is a valid one, but I think it's become blown out of proportion. And people are sort of singling him out as this like villainous person who has, the capacity to totally change how every single man views every single woman, that, that's too far. I think it's just another one of a fad that will pass.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry. I've been talking for quite some time,
No,
so
it's all good. Um,
That was good. Um, when I think of Andrew Tate, the first thing that comes to my mind is controversy. I mean, you can either love the guy or hate the guy. I mean, he knows how to get a reaction, and that is why he is blowing up on all platforms. I open up my feed, anything. It's basically all Andrew Tate's views, and just saying I did some research into his business, Hustlers University. Yeah, you pay $50 a month. That's what he always advertises. Only $50 a month. Only for one. And basically what he does is you go to basically full-time school with him. He pays professors is what he claims. And like for so you go into like a copywriting thing, and basically each person who recruits another person gets an incentive of $10. So everyone is like recruiting each other, and it's basically a pyramid scheme where he's at the top. And I mean, if you keep pushing everyone, everyone, it just grows.
yeah. Um, Before I go back to moderating this, I'm just gonna give my opinion really quick. The guy is a genius and a troll at the same time. I mean, if you look at the stuff he says, like, oh, if my son is like vegan, he's gonna have to like fight me, and then one of us is gonna have to die. It's pretty funny. Or like, like he says like outrageous things like women can't drive. Like, I don't think he actually believes this stuff. He just says it because it brings in clicks and views, and then from that, I mean, no one. I've never seen anyone successfully pull off like this affiliate marketing type of organization that he has, because I mean he's completely taken over like so many people affiliating to him, and like it's just people driving for like the cheap $10 referral while he really makes the majority of the money. I mean, it's a really good marketing play by him, I would just say. And I mean, has he said on his own, like his brand is like the most expensive thing to him. It's the thing that's bringing him in the most money, and that's why he's so successful. Mark, do you want to add anything about the legendary Andrew Tate?
Yeah, well, I think we can all agree that Andrew Tate is a marketing genius, and like I don't know, in the last month, I feel like he's become like a larger than life figure, and his presence is just everywhere, and he's sort of involved into, I think, an internet meme, because I find that some of the things he says is just so outrageous and so outlandish that um it's in a way comedic, and it's and and back to Cooper's point on like how it's blowing up, and how it demonstrates this whole idea of how like controversial topics um can easily blow up everywhere, is that it kind of demonstrates how like um well with how with over a variety of subjects, how easy it is to get sort of sucked into, I mean, some very toxic and negative thoughts, the way how like social media can Instagram reel you in, and sort of just suck you down this rabbit hole, which is very similar to a podcast that I recently listened to on NPR, that's coincidentally called The Rabbit Hole, that talks about a YouTuber who falls down the rabbit hole on YouTube, um, where he becomes sucked in with all the extremely extremist content, and how he eventually is able to climb out of that rabbit hole and do a complete 180. Um, so those are just some thoughts that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I think those are some good points. Like, kind of like watching out for the extremism that it can bring, because he's all over the internet always. And to add on to that, I guess I would say like some people do, like, especially I would say like the younger male audience, because like Andrew Tate's obviously like what you would consider the ideal successful man. He's got the money, he's got the girls, He's pretty jacked, and he's like, he knows how to fight. It's like kind of like what the young guy looks up to, especially someone in our demographic, our age. I think that's what I would add to Mark's point about how it can kind of become dangerous because people start to take him really literally, and then they begin to act like how he is on air, and I think that becomes a lot more dangerous.
I
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think one of the problems that is clear to me at least is he's sort of creating this definition, almost as you said, of like the ideal male. Like, and this is going to sound corny, but literally, I think has become like the epitome of what we jokingly refer to as like an alpha male, right? Like, he's so domineering, so powerful. He has so much influence, so much money. Um, and he basically, I mean, he acts like he can get everything he wants. And I think, whether we want to admit it or not, men, especially young men, at least at some point in their life, may have looked up to that. And that's sort of like the model that traditional society has, put up on a pedestal for us to want and to desire. Now, I don't think that's necessarily problematic in and of itself, like wanting to be successful, wanting to be rich, wanting to be powerful, wanting to be influential. But where it does become problematic is when you start like integrating that definition of success and I guess prowess with like misogyny, which I think Andrew Tate is doing. Um, I don't purposefully or not, I'm not sure, but I think he is equating like being rich and powerful to being able to treat women however you want. And I think that, especially in modern society, that's absolutely not the truth, right? Like people can be rich and powerful, but that does not give them the right to do anything they want. Um, and I think that is where the danger lies.
Um, just like dating back to how he even like blew up. I mean, he blew up his content on a phrase, "Don't be afraid of the bubbles." And one clip that I see, I mean, there's plenty of them, but here's one that stuck with me just from the sheer oddness of it. Grab your friends and gather them around and pour them out water, sparkling water. And if they are scared of the bubbles, don't talk to those pussies again. It's like, I mean, I don't even know. He's like referencing a friend's like character to bubbles, and if you're scared of bubbles, you're a bad person. Like, I just don't get it. But another one is, have you seen the clown that hides from gay people? Like, I mean, come on.
All right, thank you for the very useful addition. Citing your evidence as your English teacher told you. Does anybody have anything else to add about Andrew Tate?
Well, I feel like it'd be interesting to do like a case study on Andrew Tate and like go back into like his old, interviews, like when he was kickboxing and just like seeing what were some of the things he said and if are there the same things he is saying today. Because I mean that could potentially indicate, his own motivations and like why he's all of a sudden everywhere.
Yeah, actually, one figure I think I could compare him to very similar is Conor McGregor because they both were like kind of UFC fighters and they were both broke, living paycheck to paycheck with welfare, and now that they've made it, they're like kind of like these both known as these super cocky figures, and I wonder how like that relates to their psychology. Is like their stories are really similar, their psyche is really similar. I wonder if I were to study that more, how that would relate. Does anybody have anything else to add about the man, the myth, the legend?
No, I mean, I think that was a really good conversation. I'm glad we had it because it's a pressing topic and I think it's important to address. So thank you, guys.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.